Thanks everyone for joining in today. I have a really wonderful guest who I've been communicating with for quite a while. We're finally catching up today. So Maria, please tell us all about your aromatherapy journey.
Oh, David, it's so good to see you again.
No, it's great to see you too. Thanks for coming on today.
You're very welcome. I'm delighted to be here and tell my story in a sense about working in care homes and sheltered schemes here in London for the last, I suppose, 25, 30 years now. And that was purely by chance on the back of meeting a fellow, not a fellow, she was a New Zealand lady called Ros Goodliff, now calling herself Rose. I think she might be Psychic Rose now, but an amazing New Zealand lady who had the vision and foresight to actually, well, first of all, we met at a parent link group where we were learning how to communicate with our children. And we had 5 minutes listening at each of the 12 sessions where we learned how to listen, which was one of the best things I've ever done, really. I sometimes talk too much, but never mind. I know what I do. And she discovered I did aromatherapy, and she said, "Oh, you must come along. You must come along to our place. We're just putting an extension on the home, and we're all very stressed." Now, at the same time, my kids are toddlers. This was 94, 95, 1994. Sounds like a long time ago, but goodness, I'm glad I remember. And she said, "Come along and do some aromatherapy. We're so stressed." So sort of long ago, and I'm paid to do this. I'm thinking, wow, this is great. Now, this is 2 years down the line from my training, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So yes, well, maybe I should tell you what that was in a sense. 1999, 1991, I trained. I think what happened is, having the children, we were all suffering from coughs and colds, and I was pregnant with my second child, and I was exhausted, and doctors were giving antibiotics. And I thought, well, it's kind of felt like the flavor of the month, you know. Oh, we'll try this one this time. And I thought, well, this isn't doing any good. So somebody recommended a homeopath to me. And I went to the homeopath, and I was really bowled over at the amount of attention and listening that went on from this man. And it was wonderful. So that sent me on the trail of discovering what I could do in this area of work. I was absolutely really amazed by it. So I had done massage for beauty therapy back in the 70s. And I was really not keen. I thought, oh, I've got a skill. This will maybe point me. And a friend of mine said, why don't you do the aromatherapy course, the Tisserand aromatherapy course? And I said, oh, right. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, that'll be easy to do. I've got young children. It was a 2-year part-time course, and I thought that was wonderful because it gave you time to really process. So it was aromatherapy, reflexology, and touch for health back then. We also had counseling skills. We were taught how to counsel, and we had a nutritionist. Very broad, great, really broad. And there was no way I could do anything else with 2 small children. And I attended every one of those weekends with great enthusiasm. And that's what led me on the path, really, I suppose, to feeling confident about working in care. Because it was a clinical, we had Dr. Christine Page teaches clinical medicine. So I felt I knew a few things. I'm not a nurse, so I didn't even think about that aspect of clinical aromatherapy then. It didn't come into the fore at that point. But on the back of that, Rose decided to do a project called Health Alternatives for Older People. She got the funding from Age Concern and Kingston upon Thames Council. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. You know, I had no idea about projects or anything like that. But she took the reins and set it up. And then told me she had an independent monitor, Dr. Sidney Jones, come along to oversee it. More panic for me. I'm thinking, oh my God, this is the prank, you know, please. It was hard, but we did a 6-month project, and that was absolutely amazing because it took me through the formal way of doing sessions with people, aromatherapy, reflexology. And then it kind of, once, a lot of publicity around it, a lot of publicity at the time, because this was new age in care homes type headlines, yeah. And I thought, oh God. And all sorts of people were jumping up and down and being interested. And I was terrified because I thought, oh my God, I felt like the voice of aromatherapy. Am I saying the right thing? Blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, got through it kicking and screaming. And she invited me then to work in the care homes and sheltered schemes. I mean, she had great vision, absolutely brilliant vision. And I sort of feel like I want to carry her vision forward and encourage fellow aromatherapists to work in care, because it was a paid position. I'm freelance, but you'd have 2-hour sessions in the care home. And I'll tell you a little bit later how those kind of worked. They've kind of evolved as well. Mm-hmm. I was reflecting a lot, and I noticed, back in 2003, Jenny Harding did an interview with me on what is it, creating a culture of care with aromatherapy in care. And it's been really lovely you asking me, and thank you for asking me to be on the podcast, to reflect, because it's making me want to get out there and take it to my fellows and actually say how flipping wonderful it is. It's wonderful working in care. And I think what's educated me alongside of that is the arts and education in care, because in the care homes, you have activity providers. So I'm an activity provider. You'll have artists that will come in. You'll have activity people like exercises come into the care home. And it's very broad. And we're looking at meaningful care for people and quality of care. And actually, I see it as a human need. It is a human need. So part of what I also am hoping to do is take part of what we do into the carers' families. There's been a program I haven't just discovered called Namaste, and they purely didn't use aromatherapy, but used some scents, but they also included. So they kind of, they're mirror, and I'm going to see if I can chase that up and see how they're going with what they're doing. But and I think with people with dementia, because a lot of the people I see have dementia, and I've put down here when I was doing a presentation, they've lost the means to express themselves with words. Mm-hmm. So in my own development over the years, what I found was I was acting more. I was thinking, how do I connect? And part of that connection was behind me here. You might see this basket, and this is, I call this the magic basket. It was a practical reason more than anything, because I'll talk a little bit, I think, about a session. I'd come into the home, I'd see the managers, I'd say, who would you like me to see, and how are things? And so it'd be a 2-hour session where I would see who they'd like me to see. Oh, so-and-so could do with a little bit of relaxation or whatever. And I'd go in, how you look, how this looks is part of the identity. I enter a room, you are entering a room, people are noticing you, and I would float about and look, and it needs to be attractive, or curious. So in that basket, I would have the box of oils. The whole procedure would be opening the box, smelling the box, and people would be curious about what was in there. I also had things in there like a little finger puppet. This little fella. And I realized, oh, hang on, this is working really well. And then I thought, oh, more puppets. And I just pull them out and just do what I've done with you. And you laugh, you see. It's just immediate. Then with the oils. So it's my sort of way of introducing myself. And it was named the Magic Basket after a resident who saw me coming in. She said, she could barely speak a word. She said, Magic Basket. And I began to realize my identity was my first and foremost thing with people. It was magical, absolutely magical. Loved it. And yes, so these are the props. I had to put these props here because I thought I'll never remember. Never remember. And various things I've done, I think, over the year. The other thing, a way of introducing myself sometimes was I'd put the basket down, but I'd also have a little organza bag on my finger as a way of initially, because you in a room, in a lounge, you might have 20 people. 2 hours, I'd probably see 6 to 8 people. And they could be only 5 minutes. It doesn't matter. But the other people I'd introduce them to a smell. And this is bergamot. One of my, and it's quite a big bottle of bergamot. It's the one that I find suits a lot of people. But what I'm going to go back on, that's a rough idea of the lounge and how I would introduce myself to people, and then follow on with doing either hand massage, leg massage, or even just a touch with the oils. I like to feel I've reached everybody. And by sitting with somebody, and I send you a video, and the reason, one of the points in that video is sitting below somebody. So you're not on top of them. I don't have a couch, don't have anything. That's not important. It's your initial contact and touch with somebody. Part of the training, other training I did was positive communication and dementia care, because I was floundering after the project. I thought, how am I going to work now? They want me to do this 2 hours, I was trained clinically. I'm not a nurse. I had all these questions to myself, and I began to value actually working in the way that I was working. And then I was fine. I'd crossed the bridge of understanding the best way to work with people, which was really lovely. But the further training with the senses. Now, this lady was positive communication and dementia care, Dr. Gemma Jones. So what I learned on that was understanding the feelings behind behavior, fear, insecurity, and how to reflect and reassure one. The senses that are affected by dementia are sight, periphery vision, hearing, and good eye contact. So for instance, you wouldn't approach somebody from the back, you'd come around to the front, and slowly, nice and slowly, big smile. Little bit tricky with a mask these days, but what's interesting, and I found that really interesting, because people are good eye contact, great, you're there. I put the makeup on the eyes, make sure they have good vision of me. And the other thing is bright and colorful clothes.
Okay.
So in the video, I've got an orangey kind of top. That I would pick a towel because of what the woman was wearing in the video.
Yeah, I'll play that video at the end of our chat. Is it okay if I play that video so people can have a look at it? Yeah, absolutely. It kind of summarized, in essence, the one-to-one in the location, in the lounge, which
and oils that I use. So I've kind of developed a way, again, because with dementia, you don't, and most people have dementia, you don't always know what ailments people have. So the approach is more psychological. I use an iPad. So if I'm with somebody, I might say, I'll smell it, and see what the response is. So I'll use lavender first, because reminiscing wise, that's what people might key into, knowing the person in front of me or a little bit about them. And if somebody's beginning to lean forward, I think, okay, sense of smell isn't so great. And I'll say something like, is that a bit faint, Mary? You know, and there'll be a little nod maybe, or a little response, gentle response. And I think, oh, I know what I've got for you. And I'll go straight to peppermint. And so you get this nice thing going on with the aromas, and it's rather lovely. And I think in the video, the lady who's now passed, she had already built a repertoire of oils that she recognized, and I found that fascinating. I thought, oh, hang on. And she'd go, oh, ylang ylang, bergamot, those were her oils she loved. And you could see her pulling back when an oil, no, that's not the one for me. So between us, we would create that blend. And I loved that. I thought, this is really, as they say, person-centered, meaningful. And from there, each session we carry on. And on some occasions, I think I've used singing. Now, when I say singing, I don't mean I'm a singer. I don't mean that at all. But you could, with the iPad, there was one lovely one where, and somebody actually told a piece of poetry. Everybody was staring at the flowers. There were pansies on the iPad. And I sort of bring extra things in, because what you have when you're sitting with one person is people either side really interested. And the biggest thing is when somebody actually says, can I have that as well? And they've actually asked me for it. So that is, yes, the singing is kind of spontaneous thing. It might even echo what's been played maybe in the background, and sometimes I use that sense in that way. Or something might come up and we spontaneously sing together. And I found in our sheltered scheme, not singing per se, but if I'm massaging somebody's feet and legs, memories come up for them. And I continue the storyline of that with them and say, oh, I used to do this as a child, and blah, 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 blah. And it's to me, that just reinforces what you're doing on the legs, and they find strength in that, in their past memories. It's really lovely. But yeah, I'm trying to think now. I'm getting lost in my own stories here, aren't I?
I know that's wonderful that they that you're able to evoke past memories just through the aromas and touch, through the combination of both, that it kind of takes them somewhere that they probably had forgotten about.
It does. And I think we prop that up with other projects to do with the carers, we did one called The Health Alternatives was the first one. Then we had Golden Yoga. Golden Yoga, I supported that, teaching the staff how to run a yoga session, but I supported that with essential oils for the morning and the evening. The one was really exciting was something called Nature and Nurture, where we had a splendid tea party. And this went seasonally through the year, if not a year and a half, where we had herbal teas, we did smoothies, we had a table full of not essential oils, cut lavender during the season. So this room turned into this wonderful sensory room. People peeled satsumas, smelt, so really involved. And we repeated that for the staff in their 10-minute break. Sounds very little. And gave them little massages. So in a sense, we were using it as a time for them, but also a time to experience it and a time to maybe take little bits of that into your care. And there's a whole area around that that I think would help staff enormously, give them the skills. And that, what I didn't mention in the project was Dr. Sidney Jones said, keep this as part of service of care and teach therapeutic principles to care staff. A little bit more difficult to do because there's such a changeover in staff. But I feel by example, when I'm in there and when I'm with staff, I can say, you know, little bits. For instance, earlier on I used to teach them figure of eight. It's not a teaching thing. When they're actually with people, if they're dressing somebody, so their attitude kind of switches to something more gentle and stroking. Just really, really small, simple things that shift the atmosphere and the feeling of the doing mode into a more nurturing and caring mode. That's rather lovely. And I think the other projects, what do we do? Nature and nurture, I think, could be repeated time and time again. During the pandemic, I did a roaming aroma kit, which I was asked to do, which was really tricky in a sense. And I wasn't too happy with handing over oils to care staff. We did some training online, but again, always cautious about how that happens. I would also love to hear from anybody else that's working in care homes. I would love to hear, but I can't emphasize how great it is to be employed by a care home. And they really do want people. They would love aromatherapists working in care. And I will do my level best to help that along in any way I can, really.
That's fantastic to hear. That's amazing to hear. Is it okay, Maria, if I leave your contact details just on the screen if anyone does want to get in touch with you?
Absolutely. And I think I can elaborate. I did do, with a friend, I did draw up a CPD. Oh God, I hate to say 2016, but life and curveballs took over and different things. But I would be really interested in helping fellow aromatherapists work in care, quite honestly, and I can do inductions. I've had people come along and I was going to say ghost me. I don't mean that. What is it? Follow, you know, just come in on sessions and get the feel of it. It's more difficult to do that in a training kind of educational setting, but I suppose I'm quite passionate about what I've learned myself and actually how, I have to say, liberating it was from my own thoughts about illnesses, dementia. And I think most people with dementia are young at heart. And if you go in and you're yourself, I mean, honestly, it just brought me out of myself. All singing, all dancing is what I call it sometimes. And it is. And being involved in the projects that were run by the Arts and Education, I thought, oh my goodness, this is what it's all about, isn't it? You know, and it's so light. And I think as fellow aromatherapists maybe get older, it's actually a nice, easy, you can continue your work in this whole area of care.
I think it's fantastic that you're getting, well, it's encouraging to know that you're wanted by the care homes. It's an avenue that is accepted, you know.
Absolutely.
I remember I did some work back at the Isle of Wight when I was living there at the
oh yes,
the hospital there and working in the stroke and rehabilitation ward, and I was not allowed to use any essential oils. They wouldn't let me. I could only use base oils for touch, if that makes sense. You know, no aromas at all in the wards, which was kind of a bit, you know, the part that, like you said, I wanted to do, but you know, they wouldn't allow it at the time. So it's good to hear that you'll be, yes, I can do that there in the space that's, you know, comfort.
No problem.
Yeah.
And I think the backing of the project was the thing that did it. And I almost feel bad that I haven't been able to take this further, but I'm so keen to do it. And it's a great passion of mine. If I do nothing else, this is what the way forward with, you know, another area of aromatherapy, which you have your clinical hat, you have all this education you have, which is lovely. And I've done further training with Madalena Kisko in the Netherlands. The study she did on, say, constipation. It's the only clinical side in a sense that I thought, oh gosh, this is fascinating. Cool washing on the tummy. And I began to understand why that was good. And it's not to do with aromatherapy, even though you could use a scent with it. And I use some of her CO2 oils, which are very pungent. I need pungent oils working with people in care. And that was quite an eye-opener. So I went over and did some training with her. And I know she's got a huge knowledge of oils and everything else and experience. So that inspired me. I thought, and I haven't done anything about this, but I was looking at teaching the staff how to do this technique, which could be integrated into day-to-day care. And I suppose it's a little bit of a lack of confidence because I feel I'm not a nurse and no, I don't have to be a nurse. And there's all that wrangling you go through your own head about moving forward with something. And who do I get on board with this? Because I'm not, and new staff turning up all the time, and I'm thinking, okay, just hold on to that. Hold on. There's going to be a time when you can do that. And I've been kind of leaking out to the community, thinking, who in the community can I have a conversation with? So I told somebody last week, and I thought, I don't know her very well, but she actually has an aromatherapy background, and she's got an award for her dementia. And we don't know each other very well, but I'm going to go down that route and see what I can.
That's fantastic. Unfortunately, Maria, our time has gone so quick. We must do a follow-up one. I feel as if there's a lot more to talk about, particularly in the area of care, elderly care, and dementia with aromatherapy. I feel as if we've just scratched the surface. So, thank you so much for talking with me today. I've learned so much, learned myself, regardless of anything else. It's been lovely talking with you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and all the very best with your move.
Now thank you, Maria. But let's try and do another one and talk more about what you're doing, and maybe if you do get other therapists contact you, we could have a bigger, larger conversation and make it a bit longer, and turn it into something larger.
That would be wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Thank you for asking me to do that.
And I must work you're doing
one last thing. That's lemon verbena.
I love lemon verbena. Yeah.
I'm growing it in the garden, but my goodness gracious me, there's even, I think, a company called Bax Botanicals, and they're doing all sorts of non-alcoholic. This is a bit of product placement here, only because I love their stuff. And actually, my colleague's name is Bax, and we've realized that they're related. And it's just one of those wondrous things where you think, oh my goodness, you know this and that. And it's those connections again. Wonderful. Thank you for asking me to talk.
No, thank you for sharing your lovely story. And as I said, we should catch up again in a couple of months. I think it'll be good. So, Maria, thank you so much for your time, and I'll leave your contact details in the bottom so people can contact you on your Instagram and Facebook and so forth. So yeah.
Okay, and from both of us, ta-ra.
Thanks, Maria. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
David.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Have a good day. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Now, Elspeth.
Which one's that one?
Oh,
Because I had that aspect.
of date.
Yes.
Wow. That's nice. It's narrowly orange blossom tree.
It is just very
Yeah.
suffocating when
And in here, what I've got is a little bottle of oil. As you see, I'm going to take one with a little bit less. And into that's almond oil. And I'll put a few drops of neroli in there. 1, 2. Buckle my shoe. 3, 4. Knock at the door. 5, 6. Pick up sticks. Then I'll put a little bit on the back of your hand.
What,
And
from
you can
each?
enjoy smelling
That's
them.
it, then I've got to go up there.
We won't do your hands today, but that's okay, thank you. And then you can rub that into your hands. Just massage that into your hands. Do that.
On there.
Yeah. And then lift it up to your nose. Look at you. Wonderful, wonderful. Now, have a big sniff. Up to your nose.
This minute I'm getting them. Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? Just move your legs a little bit forward and we'll give you a nice massage. You haven't had a massage on your legs for a while, have you?
No.
And here's my friends, they're looking after us. Here's my hands.
What's that one?
This one is neroli.
Neroli?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do that like
And
that.
again, we're joined by the amazing speaker.
Hey, good to see you.
Yeah, you too. So
All
how are you
right.
going to be supporting
Yes, it's.
Well, you know what? We've all tried
I love
loads of
you, so
diets.
I can do what I can do
Deal
because
with
I'm
the
looking at you.
anxieties or the issues that cause them to turn to food in
Oh,
the first place. We're looking
lovely.
forward to
I love you
finding that,
too.
And
going
this
through
and
it,
this
and changing
one,
their perspective so
I
they can lose the weight and for good.
absolutely love it because it's so good. See how good you buy?
Thank you. So do you. Look at your colours. Gorgeous.